Good afternoon and welcome to our webinar. I am Eileen Murphy, Projects and Communication Coordinator, and I'm pleased to present Anita Gallagher. Anita leads the Training and Outreach Program in HIPGive. She has first-hand experience of the challenges and responsibilities of leading a non-profit organization, and over recent years has specialized in social innovation and online fundraising, working as a consultant. She is also part of the Giving Tuesday or Un Día para Dar Global Leaders. Andrea Perez, Project and Marketing Manager, will be also joining us to give us details about the contest. Before I pass over to Anita, I just want to mention a few tips about the platform GoToWebinar. By default, all attendees are mute, so if you have any question or comment, you can write in the panel on the right at any time. If we don't see it at the time, we will be answering questions at the end. Also, in the panel of the right, there is a section called Handouts. We have uploaded the presentation there and the contest and webinar calendar. Finally, after the webinar has ended, you will be able to access a recording. I will send you a very short survey. Please take a few minutes to answer it, because with your feedback we can improve our webinars. Thank you, and now we go over to Anita.
Thank you very much, Eileen. It's great to be with you all this afternoon. This is the second in a series of webinars in our training program 2016. In each webinar, we're going to try and address some of the main tips and strategies to help you be even more successful in your crowdfunding campaigns. Today, our topic is contests and matching funds. It's a unique characteristic of the HIPGive platform, and we've divided our webinar today into 3 sections. First of all, we'll be talking about the contests per se, what they are and when they are. And then we'll look a little bit more in depth at matching funds and how you can communicate the opportunity to have your donations matched to your donors and audience. And then we'll finish with a look at your communication strategy and how to build that around the focus of a one-day contest. We've designed the webinar to be as inclusive as possible, so there's people who probably have never fundraised on a crowdfunding platform before, and maybe there's other people who have already achieved some successful crowdfunding campaigns. So we hope that you'll all find some nuggets of information or insights that are useful to you. We know that the topic of crowdfunding and using match funding for crowdfunding platforms is quite new, so there's not a lot of information online about that. But there is an awful lot of information on giving days, on international topics such as how to build campaigning around giving days, and there's a lot of information on communication strategies. So at the end of the webinar, I've just pasted in some links to some resources that I think are really useful on the topic, and I'm sure you'll be able to find more to go into more detail about the main issues that we're talking about today. So when we talk about contests, I think we immediately think of the word competition. But for us, the contests mean a lot more than just that. It's an opportunity to come together, it's an opportunity to celebrate, and it's an opportunity to motivate more people to come on board. So really it's a moment of celebration and of participation. If we were to write up our dictionary definition of what a contest is, we would probably say that it's a special day or special days which coincide with international commemorations, celebrations, or giving days. And they increase the visibility and the volume of donations on HIPGive, and that is achieved through multilateral promotion, by which I mean HIPGive is actively promoting our platform and donation opportunities on contest days, but we know that all of the other organizations who have projects live on the site are also carrying out their own promotional campaigns. And everything comes together because we have the additional incentive of matching funds and additional prizes. On the right-hand side of the screen, you can see our contest and matching funds calendar for 2016, and this is from the website. You'll see that we've already carried out 2 of our contests this year, which were International Women's Day. The campaign was #GoMujeres, and we had Give Local America, which we celebrated as Mi Comunidad Soy Yo. So you can see that strategically these contests are linking into themes which we consider to be important in the overall development agenda and in the life of Latino communities, such as social justice, equity, and participation. And I think this is especially important that we organize these contests as a way to raise the profile of crowdfunding for social impact where we work. Even though crowdfunding is becoming gradually more popular, it's still heavily associated with startup entrepreneurs and individuals who have their individual or family projects. And so we really want to use these contests as a way to raise visibility and have a lot more people come on board to see that there are new ways to donate online and help create social impact. And if that all sounds good in theory, the good news is that it's working in practice as well. And I'm very happy that Andrea Perez is here with us today. And Andrea, maybe you can tell us a little bit more with your several years experience on HIPGive about what impact the contests have generated and what are the upcoming contests for the rest of this year.
Thank you, Anita. So yeah, I think it's a really great opportunity for nonprofit organizations to participate in special contests and matching fund opportunities, especially because it allows you to gain an additional exposure and visibility that you probably wouldn't have if you went about it on your own. And this is because through the HIPGive platform, we generate a lot of content, videos, marketing materials, and different resources for the campaign to be larger than just your organization and for you to be able to spread the word to a larger network. We promote these special initiatives like Giving Tuesday or Go Mujeres with the whole network of Hispanics in Philanthropy and HIPGive, which is over 7,000 people in newsletter and over 15,000 people combined social media outreach. And so we want to make sure that when you participate on HIPGive, you are not only running a campaign and you feel like you're doing it on your own, but you feel like you're being a part of a larger community and part of a larger movement. And we've seen that during these special matching efforts, the traffic on the site is quadrupled, or sometimes, you know, we see an increase of 500% in traffic. And so it's really great to participate on these specific initiatives because it really allows you to reach people outside of your network and outside of your own community and have that support of all of the other participants and of HIP and the HIPGive network. And through social media too, you'll see that every campaign we have a specific hashtag, like Latinos Give, Mi Comunidad Soy Yo, and Go Mujeres, and we use that hashtag to kind of unify a message around the campaigns that are participating on the platform. So it's worked. It generates a lot of opportunities for exposure through media channels. For example, in the past, we've done contests where the nonprofits were able to be featured on NBC News and other media partners that we bring into the campaigns. So it is a really, it works well to do it this way. And so this year we still have 3 contests left. One is going to be Hispanic Heritage, which is on September 15th. Crowdfunding Day Mexico, which is on October 5th, and Giving Tuesday on November 29th. And so throughout all of these contests, we're going to continue to use the theme of Latinos Give. But each one will have a specific focus. So for Hispanic Heritage, we're celebrating, you know, the month that is widely celebrated across the U.S. Of just promoting and celebrating the Latino and Hispanic culture and the heritage within the diaspora and different groups within the U.S., but also in Latin America. But so we'll have a focus on projects that promote that type of Latino culture and encourage diaspora giving. Pretty much any project that supports the Latino community can participate within this contest, and we'll have at least $10,000 in matching funds, but we will be announcing other prices as we get closer to that date. So make sure to follow us on Facebook and be subscribed to our newsletter so that you keep up with the different opportunities that come up. For crowdfunding day, it'll only be projects that take place in Mexico, and this will be a collaboration with AFICO, which is an organization in Mexico that's bringing together all of the different groups around crowdfunding and social impact in the country. And so on that day, it'll be a specific effort for Mexico groups. And then on Giving Tuesday, it'll be our largest effort of the year, and it'll be a big campaign focused on benefiting projects all across Latin America and the U.S., and on really promoting transnational giving. So, you know, people here in the U.S. giving back to projects in Latin America and also within their communities in the country. And so it'll be a larger effort. Last year, when we did Giving Tuesday, we offered $40,000 in matching funds, and we raised, as a cohort, over $200,000. And this year, we expect it to be much bigger. We're going to bring in a lot of different partners, and we're going to have special campaigns by country. So we would have U.S. gives, Mexico gives, Venezuela gives, etc. And so that's going to be a really nice effort to create that transnational giving towards Latino communities. And that's why the hashtag and the theme around all three contests is Latinos Give. This is a campaign that started during our last Giving Tuesday project in December, and it's all about showing Latinos, showing a side of Latinos of generosity, showing our stories of giving back to the community, of being members that contribute to society, whether it is through our jobs, through our culture, through our music, our food. And so it's a way to change the narrative of Latinos as takers to Latinos as givers, and really show the true stories that are out there through all of these nonprofit organizations and social impact projects in the community.
That's great. Thank you very much, Andrea, and I hope you'll stick around and answer any questions that might come up as we move on and at the end of the presentation.
Definitely, I'll be here.
Before we move on to how to plan your campaign, I have a question for you. I know that webinars can sometimes feel like we're just talking at you and not having a conversation, so this is one way for you to get involved, and I know that you're not all asleep out there. This is a quick question for you. When we're thinking about getting organized for the contests, how long before the contest do you think you should upload your project to HIPGive? If you can just take a second to maybe vote on that and see what we'll see what your opinions are about the planning process. I wonder maybe if we have a lot of experienced crowdfunders here or some people with less experience among us, and what your ideas about the planning process. I'm also curious to see if this is going to be different from our colleagues in Latin America. Okay, I'll give you just another couple of seconds to vote on the poll. Okay, let's get this up on the screen. So the question was, how long before the contest should you upload your project to HIPGive? And the vast majority, 60%, say 4 weeks a month, 20% 6 weeks, 10% 2 weeks, and some people say another figure. Good to know. Thank you very much indeed. Well, what we found out over our time working in HIPGive about the time frame for putting together your project, we recommend that you start drawing up the blueprint for your project 5 or 6 weeks beforehand. And so obviously when you're thinking about running a campaign in the light of a contest, we have a specific date to work towards. It's really important to think about your timing. So if you think about it 5 or 6 weeks beforehand, that gives you a lot of time to get together your project ideas and familiarize yourself with the HIPGive platform if you haven't used it already. And you can define your project if you need to sign off from the people above you in the chain of command about what can be authorized for your project, organize your documents. And then you see the rest of the steps are you actually need to then register your project with us, submit it through the platform. And then in between the time when you submit your project, we review all the projects. I'll talk more about that in a minute. But you have the chance to get your materials ready for the campaign itself. And that can often take between 1 and 4 weeks. Then your campaign is up and running. Now, we do suggest you start a couple of days before the actual contest at least. But your campaign can last for 15, 30, or 45 days, depending on your preference. Some people are used to having their organizations on online giving sites where they're permanently available for donations. But we prefer to take a crowdfunding campaign approach, and we think it's often more effective to have 15, 30, or 45 days of strong promotional communications and to get people on board and not to cause burnout. And we find that that works a lot better in engaging people with the campaign. And then finally at the end, it's really important just to take time to celebrate your achievements, but also to learn, to evaluate what worked, what didn't work, and also thank and recognize the donors that have taken part in the campaign. Because often campaigns are stepping stones to other work that we do with donors or other campaigns, so it's really good to take that time to thank and make sure that the groundwork is laid for future outreach to donors. I wanted to just take a chance to give a little bit more technical information regarding eligibility. HIPGive is open to all legally constituted nonprofit organizations. If you're working in another country, we're open to all countries throughout Latin America. In Mexico and other countries, you don't always have to be a donataria autorizada, as we say, as long as you meet 501c3 standards. And even if you don't, you can always have the chance to find a fiscal sponsor and work on a campaign or project with us together for that. Regarding the dates, like I said, we do recommend that you choose the start date of your campaign to be at least a few days before the actual contest. So if the contest for Hispanic Heritage is the 15th of September, it's highly recommendable that your project goes live at least a few days before that. The reason being that it gives you a chance to have the link, the hyperlink to your project, and you can include that in your communications. It also allows you to do tests and see how the actual donation process is. And most importantly, it allows for you to invite key donors to make those important first donations and raise your ability to attract more donations. What do I mean? It's a kind of an aspect of seed funding. If we see an online crowdfunding campaign as donors and we see that they want to raise $5,000 or $10,000 and right now they have $0 or maybe $10 or $100, well then naturally we think, oh, they're such a long way off the goal, they'll never make it, that project is not really viable. And so the tendency is to not donate. But if we see a project that wishes to raise $5,000 or the $10,000, but they're already halfway there or even a third of the way there, then psychology tells us, well, they have a much better chance of being able to reach that goal, and I want to help them to get them over the finish line. So it is important to use those first couple of days to get important donations onto the platform and raise that opportunity to attract more of those donors who want to help you cross the line. And also regarding the dates, please do bear in mind that in HIPGive we revise all the projects because we have to fulfill some fiscal and financial rules. And we want to make sure that the donors have confidence in the organizations that we're working with. So we need about 72 hours to review your documentation, especially if it's the first time you're fundraising on the platform. And also it gives us a chance, if we see anything that we think you can strengthen in your campaign and in your project materials, or we think we can give you any guidance or orientation, then we're happy to do that and be in touch with you before your project goes live. So in other words, looking at this time frame, the idea is that if you want to get started, well, now is the best time. And especially if you want to participate in the Hispanic Heritage contest, then we really do recommend that you get your project in as soon as possible, definitely by the end of August. Now, how would you go about that? Let me see if I can change my screen and share with you just a view of what the dashboard looks like. Here we go. So this is what it looks like once you go into the HIPGive site, hipgive.org, if you haven't been there before. I've already logged in. You can see here, it gives me the option to log out. So if you're there for the first time, go up to the top menu bar and click Login. If it's the first time, you'll create a username and a password, and then you'll get to the dashboard. Here I have a project that was already going, but I could start a new project for a new campaign. Let's see how the internet responds now. So you click on Start a New Project, and the important thing when you create your project, as well as putting in the information about your project, the name, the details, etc., is to choose the information for the contest that you want to participate in. So here you can fill in exactly the contact details, and here's the part that's important. Part of a HIPGive special contest, please choose Yes, and then you'll see you have a drop-down menu of the 3 different contests that we're running towards the end of the year. So please choose the one that you want to participate in. And if you think that you have the possibility to participate in more than one contest, then please do bear in mind that you would need to create 2 different projects on your dashboard. But let's choose Hispanic Heritage here. Then this is the point where I choose the duration, 15, 30, or 45 days. Let's go with 30. And finally, like I said, it's important that you think about the start date so that we have enough time to review your project and so that you have enough time to get it up and running before the critical day of the contest and the matching funds. So let's move back just for a second now to the presentation. So that's an overview of the campaign. I'm just leaving this slide in the presentation of those steps towards filling in the information on the dashboard as you create your project. Now, moving on to talk about matching funds. This is one of the key aspects of the contest of HIPGive. It's a real standout feature of the platform. A lot of people think you're going to have this wonderful situation where for all of the money that you raise, you're going to have exactly double the amount. And that would be wonderful. But it's also an area that causes a lot of confusion. And if we had endless funds, if money grew on trees, believe me, we would love to be able to match every single donation on the platform. But unfortunately, despite the philanthropic generosity of the organizations and the foundations and the businesses we work with, we have finite resources. So we have to think of ways to distribute that in the best way possible to the organizations that we work with. Now, from a HIPGive point of view, we see the matching funds as a way to incentivize greater participation in the crowdfunding campaigns. We really believe in the power of technology and in the power of participation as a means to crowdfunding and to achieving more investment in social impact causes. And we also know that while even the most generous person in the world will want to give to good causes, everyone loves to see a 2-for-1 offer. Everyone loves to see their money grow. So we think that that's a really good way to motivate more people to come on board, specifically during the contest. And as we mentioned, we're able to do that thanks to the fact that HIP itself is a charitable organization, and we have a really good relationship with donor foundations and businesses who want to contribute funds to our pool of money that we can distribute in a contest. However, that's how we see it. Yesterday, I had the opportunity to talk to Christina. She's the director of Luna Maya, which is an organization that trains midwives here in Mexico, where I live. And she put it in her own words. They had a very successful campaign, actually. They raised their goal of $5,000 during the Go Mujeres contest. But she told me, this idea of contests, of matching funds, it's so new, and we didn't understand it, never mind them, referring to the donors. And so this confusion or the newness of the concept we know is an obstacle for many organizations, and it's created some misunderstandings, it's created some disappointments. So we just wanted to reassure you that we have been listening, we understand, and this is why we're dedicating a specific part of the webinar today and more efforts over time to really explain how matching funds work and why we do it the way we do it, and how you can communicate that to make the most of it for your donors. So when it comes to the question of how are the funds distributed, again, it's coming back to the fact that If funds were unlimited, well then it would be no problem. We would just duplicate every single donation. But because it's a limited amount of money, we have to think of the best way to distribute those funds, and in a way that really helps serve that greater goal of engaging more donors, more potential donors in crowdfunding process and raising the visibility of the great projects that your organizations are wanting to fund for. I would like to point out that this is still a very new area of work, and we're one of the organizations that are pioneering this a bit, and we've been learning as we go along. And I was reading a couple of days ago a report from Nesta in the United Kingdom. They're a social impact innovation kind of think tank, and they're really also only beginning to do investigation and understand the impact of matching funds on crowdfunding platforms. So what we have learned in HIPGive is that there's different models. And the first model, which you could call the first come, first serve, is in which you would duplicate all of the donations until the funds run out. And as I said, the problem with that is that they would run out very quickly. Imagine if we were to release our matching funds at midnight, and if everyone was super organized and had all their donors with their credit cards ready at midnight, well then it could reach 12:15 a.m. and there would be no more matching funds for any other organization and the whole rest of the contest day. So that's not ideal. The second method or methodology is first to the post. If you imagine that we would use the funds to reward the organizations who are the first to reach their fundraising goal. So we could give a fixed prize of $2,000 or $5,000 to the first organization to reach a goal of, say, $5,000. Now, this model has a strong advantage in the fact that it's very motivating for the organization to take part, and it's also very easy to communicate to donors. If we reach our goal, then we will get this match funding. However, it's also got quite a significant disadvantage, which is that it's only good for the organization who's first to reach their goal. You can imagine that there would be many other organizations who throughout the contest day would also reach their goal, but because they did so later on, they wouldn't be able to access the matching funds. And then what about the organizations who reached close to their goal? And again, even they wouldn't have any chance to avail of the matching funds. So the method that we've prepared of our recent contests is what we call time release. We take the full pot of a matching fund and we separate it out into groups and we release it throughout the day at different times. And we also establish like a roof or a maximum level of the donations that can be matched with the matching funds. So let me explain to you how that would work in practice. This is one of the promotions that we did for Mi Comunidad Soy Yo. So just you can see our way of explaining how this would work. I'm not saying this is exactly how the Hispanic Heritage and the Giving Tuesday campaigns are going to work, but it will be along these lines. It will be the same overall structure. So we group the matching funds into different time periods. You can see here 7, 9, 12, 14, 17. And so you can imagine if I had $2,000 to release at 2 p.m. and someone donates $50, well then HIPGive is going to give that organization another $50. Then the next person after 2 o'clock is going to donate $20 and HIPGive will duplicate those $20. If somebody gives $10 next, then we'll duplicate $10 and successively until the $2,000 are all used up. So for example, if I come online at 2:20 and I could give a donation and have it duplicated, but if that last donation was what pushed me past the amount of the $2,000 which I had available at that time zone, then the next person who donates, maybe at 2:25 or 2:30, they will find that their donation has not been duplicated because the amount of funds available at that period of time have already run out. And the duplications will begin again at the next time period, which in this case would be 5 p.m. Now, so that it doesn't happen that one very generous person gives a large donation and that uses up all the funds, like I said, we try and establish this maximum or this top limit on the duplication. So in theory, for example, if someone were to come along at 2 p.m. on the dot and make a donation of $2,000, then the matching funds for that time period would be used up and no one else would have any of the benefit of the matching funds. To avoid that happening, we've created the roof of 100, the limit of $100. So for example, if that person donated $2,000 or $1,000, only the first $100 will be matched. So for the donation of $2,000, the organization would receive those $2,000, but only $100 in matching funds, and there would still be $1,900 left in the pot for the next donations in that time period to be duplicated. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of information. Please do trust the system. This is all automatized on the software that we use. And we have a clear report of every single donation and the timestamp and how much is calculated of the matching funds. And we send that to you immediately when the campaign closes. This year, we also are working hard to have some kind of indicator on the screen so you can see the current state of the matching funds throughout the day. And I hope you realize that for us this is the most democratic way, the most just way to distribute the matching funds, because it means that all of the money is not given to a few donations, a few large donations, or any particular time of the day. It's spread out. And this is especially important because in HIPGive we work throughout all of the United States and Latin America with at least 4 different time zones. So we want to make sure that all of the organizations, when donors get up in the morning, still have a chance to participate. And we find out that it really does mean that more organizations get a little piece of the matching funds throughout the day. So I hope that you've understood it a little bit better. And now, in order to help you communicate it to the donors that you're reaching out to, here's just a couple of ideas. First of all, it's important to present it as an opportunity, not as a fact. Because you don't know how many other people are donating at any given time, so you can't guarantee to people that their donation will be doubled, but you can say certainly your donation could be doubled. We also recommend you explain it in simple terms, who, what, and where. So say, for example, 2-for-1 donations tomorrow, on September 15th. Visit project, the link to your organization on HIPGive. Do be specific about the amount and the impact. Some people are happy just to donate because they believe in your cause or your project. Other people like to know where the money is going, so you can bring it into play. For example, your $50 will allow us to do such a thing, but if it's doubled, we'll have $100 and we can do so much more. Do include the information about the matching funds that relate to your time zone, so that people have clear information. So for example, by saying if you donate at these times, it's more likely that your donation will be doubled. And finally, as in any good fundraising campaign, it's important to communicate the urgency of the situation. The contest and the matching funds are available for 1 day only, so you can use that message, or you can say, for example, there's only 6 hours left, please help us to seize this opportunity. Now, we have worked with some great organizations over the years that are becoming more and more expert at communicating this message to their donors. Contextos, I think I mentioned them as well in the previous webinar. They're a Salvadoran organization, and they've learned so much about the matching funds that they're actually implementing their own matching fund campaigns. This is an example from just a couple of days ago, and I love the way you'll see that they have this progression of posts on social media about how tomorrow there's going to be matching funds, and then donations 2 by 1, and the date the 30th of June, and then just for today the matching funds. And so they're very simple messages, very appealing, and they're backed up by a clear explanation in the text above the image. And I want to share with you this video. Again, I'll switch over to the internet browser. Here we go. Video is a great way to get across some more complicated messages when you need to give a little bit more information than you can put in one single image or short post. So this is an organization called SLI from North Carolina. They help Latino students with mentoring programs so that they continue in their education. And we just love the way this young mentor encourages people to get involved.
Hello, wonderful people. I'm here with some exciting news about our HIPGive campaign for mentees in the Scholars Latino initiative that are female identified. We have another full day of matching funds. We are going to have 5 rounds. 5 rounds, $1,000 available in each round. Again, like last time, a maximum $100 per each donor. So you, my friend, can give up to $100. If you can't give that much, that's all right. Every donation, every contribution matters. So please, please, please donate. $20, $10, $5, $95. If you have more than $100 to give, awesome, give it. Just know that it won't be matched over the $100. There are several different rounds of giving times. You'll see those here coming up on the screen. You really want to get in on those first few minutes of the matching hour. A lot of people are donating, so you really want to beat them out. We really want those matching funds to come to us. The day to donate is Tuesday, March 29th. So mark your calendars, set all the alerts, tell whoever you need to tell so you remember. Also,
so that gives you a great idea of how you can combine video and the clear information on the screen to get your message across. And if you want more information, then you can look for our friends at Carolina SLI on Facebook. So I want to respond to the question or the feeling of what happens when organizations don't get matching funds. Sometimes people have said to us, we were really disappointed. We worked so hard on this campaign, and yet at the end of the day, we had just a very small amount or even no matching funds. And I understand that, and I would say, sure, I mean, the money is important. It means you can do a lot more things. But I would also say that if you've communicated faithfully this idea that it's an opportunity, not a guarantee that the funds will be matched, then you shouldn't, there's no need to be disappointed. I think it's also important to recognize that probably the very fact that you communicated that there was an opportunity to have funds matched was what was attracting more and more people to donate to your campaign, and that's benefited you as well. And also, I think there's wider reaching benefits to participating in contests. The fact that we focus our communication efforts on one single day, that we link into these bigger movements that are happening worldwide or across the country, and we communicate more enthusiastically, more vigorously with wider audiences to encourage them to donate online is something which benefits not just our project and our cause, but it contributes to this wider sense of a community of philanthropists and a wider positioning of crowdfunding as an important way of contributing to social investment. So I don't know if you're familiar with the phrase, a rising tide lifts all boats, but this is the way I see it. I think too often, especially when we're working in small cities or communities, we think of fundraising as a kind of the cake. And if I have a bigger piece of the cake, then there's less available for other organizations. But really, I don't think fundraising should be like that. I see it as the funds that are available are like drops in the sea. And if we work together and we participate in contests and we spread these more unified messages, then we will contribute to a culture in which more and more people feel comfortable about donating online through crowdfunding campaigns. And that will bring the tide in and lift all of the boats or all of our organizations. So before I move on, I have another question for you. I'm interested in finding out, after that explanation, how confident you are in your understanding of the matching funds. There's three options here. You can let me know if you're highly confident that you think you'll really be able to use this concept to attract donors. You can say that you're quite confident that you're willing to promote the matching funds and see what happens. Or if you're still not very confident, then you can mark that option. I'll leave the voting open for a couple more seconds now. Very good. Okay, let's close the poll and put it on the screen. Right, so 22% are highly confident and 78% are quite confident. That's great. Well, I hope that this has increased your understanding, and like I said, if you have questions, please do put them on the panel on the right so we can answer them at the end. You will also find more information about matching funds on the HIPGive website, and we're happy to explain more. And as we come closer to each of the different contests, we'll be releasing a lot more specific information about how the matching funds will work. So let me put that away and let's move on. So the final part of today's webinar is looking at your communication strategy. On one hand, well, a crowdfunding campaign is the same as any other fundraising campaign in many ways, and the same rules will apply. But I think that when you're participating in a contest and when you have one specific day as the highlight of the whole campaign, then it is very important to plan with a little bit more precision to be able to coordinate your different communication outreach strategies across the mediums and across the time to make the most use of your resources. So, for example, the calendar that we showed previously of the timeline for how many weeks you should be dedicating to each phase will be useful. And you also need to think carefully about the resources that you're going to put in the campaign. Crowdfunding campaigns tend to be a little bit more, a little bit less resource heavy than traditional campaigns, but you still need to think carefully about your staff time and which channels of communication you're going to favor. And I think it requires a lot of focus. Sometimes we're tempted to try and do everything, to try and go all out in these campaigns, but it doesn't necessarily bring the most results. Because if we try to do too much, then we often end up doing things not to the best of our capacity. So when we think about a communication strategy for a campaign, I think it's really good to focus in on 4 key questions. Who, what, how, and when. And we're going to just take the last couple of minutes to go into a little bit more detail about each of those questions and how it can help you put together a winning communication strategy for your contest. The first question is who. I spoke a little bit the last time about donor segmentation, and it comes into play again here. Like I said, very often we want to communicate to the widest audience possible. We want to use this crowdfunding campaign to draw in new people to work for our projects and our causes. But I would be very wary of trying to communicate with the general public, because really in my experience the general public per se doesn't exist. Instead we have lots of different publics. And publics can be groups of people who are similar because of where they live, their geography. They can be similar because of their interests. They can be similar because of their previous relationship with your organization, or because of the amount of money that they're capable of donating. There's lots of ways of segmenting out those different groups into different publics. But like I said, or maybe to jump in with a different kind of saying, I don't know if you know in Spanish, el que abarca mucho aprieta poco. Somebody who tries to take on too much has little effect. And so if you try to communicate to everyone, to all those publics all together, you'll find that your message becomes so general, so watered down, that it really doesn't impact on any one of those groups in particular. So this is the time to do some more experimentation into donor segmentation, and group together your donors into how they were acquired, how much they can give, whether they're a first-time or a returning donor, and their age or their demographics or their interests. And if you don't have that information yet, go out and talk to your donors, or look through your databases, or talk to the people in the fundraising area of your organization, and think about how you could use this campaign to reach more and more people, but people who are likely to have a good fit to your project. What we can share with you now is a little bit of an analysis of the statistics from our Giving Tuesday experience from last year on the platform. 60% of the visitors were first-time visitors to HIPGive at that time. 50% of them arrived through a direct link, 18% via Facebook, 15% via Google, and HIP Communications. So really a lot of people coming in through different ways, but primarily through a direct link through the communications that the organizations are sending. In terms of the amount of the donations, 57% of donations were under $50, so quite small amounts, and 77% in total, including that 57%, were under $100. So really you're looking at a crowdfunding market of people who are not major donors, well they may be major donors, but certainly their behavior online is towards small and maybe medium donations. And on the HIPGive platform for last Giving Tuesday, the most popular age range was between 25 and 34 years, followed by the 35 to 44 year age group. So that shows you that really what you would expect maybe from digital crowdfunding initiatives is that the millennials and the next up generation are really those who are being most participative. When I spoke to Christina, my friend, yesterday, and she told me about the experience of her campaign, she said that indeed it was most tricky to get her mother and her mother's friends to donate because of the generation gap. But again, they were excited about it. It was just a case of explaining to them a little bit more and giving them more information. So changing up the message according to the audience. Another thing to point out, and especially with the Hispanic Heritage campaign, but also for Giving Tuesday, is that HIPGive is a bilingual platform, and of course it has great benefits in encouraging cross international giving and diaspora giving as well. So that's something that you can really benefit from. So once you've established who your audience is, of course you need to work out what you're saying to them. And something different from a normal campaign is this aspect of the contest, of what it allows you to do in terms of your communications and your messaging. If you're running a normal campaign, your project is 100% the protagonist, so all you need to do is talk about the impact that your project creates, for who, where, and why that impact is so important. But if you're taking part in a contest, it opens up the doors to new messages linked to the movement or the theme or the giving day which the contest is based around. So we recommend that you think about how to blend in those different types of messaging and thinking about the qualities of your unique project, but also the bigger, more universal messages around the contest itself. What would be the benefits in mixing up those messages or experimenting with the larger, more universal messages? Well, to be sure, a lot of donors want to know exactly where their money is going, so you do need to show project-specific information. If you're raising funds for school, people might want to know if you're going to be using that money for books, for scholarships, for teacher salaries, etc. So do put the beneficiaries and the impact at the center of your messaging. However, it's also well known that for a lot of people, the decision to make a donation is not really a rational process. It's not really so much about the head as about the heart, and increasingly so on social media, about identity. When we do something and we share it in public or we share it on social media, it's because we want to send a message to others about our way of thinking, our way of being, about who we are, what we support, and what we identify with. And so in the framework of a contest, you have a great opportunity to activate donations with messages that relate to a sense of emotional connection, the heart, and to a sense of identity. So for example, here's some ideas. If you're participating in Hispanic Heritage, then you really want to focus on messaging that inspires a lot of pride in Latino communities. For example, just the hashtag that Andrea showed us, the Latinos Give, is what we've tried to create, that inspiration built around the identity of Latinos, not as takers, but as givers. If you're participating in Giving Tuesday, then there's a whole range of messages you could adopt about why we should help online, why it's good to be generous, why it's good to give back, especially after the Thanksgiving weekend and the big sales of Black Friday and Cyber Monday. You could talk about the joy of giving. There's more joy in giving than receiving. You could appeal to the fact that it's really easy to donate online. Giving doesn't have to be difficult. I was just brainstorming with an organization the other day, and we came up with this idea. Finding a place to park, 10 minutes. Waiting in a line for your coffee, 5-6 minutes. Donating to our project on HIPGive, less than 1 minute. And show people how easy it is. Or you can link into the idea that they're part of a bigger movement, they're part of a global movement, and that's especially the case with Giving Tuesday or with Hispanic Heritage, part of a national movement. You can show that they're part of something and that means something in their life. The next phase of working out your communication strategy and really honing in on what really matters is focusing on how will you say it. So do think about your media mix. I was listening to an interview the other day with Kiwi LaRue Miller. She runs the nonprofit marketing, and she pointed out that really these 6 big media channels have become like the established way for nonprofits to communicate, because they're what's most effective. So you have your website, your email, traditional social media, events, printed materials, and media and PR. And depending on your audience and depending on the messaging that you've selected, then you can put together a plan for which of those media will be most effective for your campaign. And what she said, and what I loved about what she said, she said, I would much rather see a nonprofit working on their email than playing around with Snapchat. And I think that's very important. We could spend a lot of time trying to use new media and trying to learn how to do them and trying to make the most of them to reach new audiences. And that's important, and we should do that. But I think when you're trying to run a time-sensitive campaign and you have a clear idea of the audience that you're communicating to, then you need to choose your media based on where they are now. You don't have time with a one-day giving day to try and bring in new people straight away. So you need to go where the volume of your audience is. And there's time later on to experiment with new social media or new ways of communicating. And finally, the last important question is when. When will you say it? A contest is one day, so you need to have a clear way of organizing your content, organizing your communications to build up to that day, to build up the interest and the participation, so that when the matching funds are released on the day of the contest, you have everyone lined up and super eager to give their donation. So if you're not already using an editorial calendar, it's a great time to start. You can create one which is even as simple as a spreadsheet, or of course you could go on online and Google, and there's a lot of tools available online. But if you were to do it yourself, just 3 simple points to include. You can use your horizontal lines for each one to be a different communication channel. So one line for email, one line for Facebook or social media, one line for traditional media. You could use vertical columns for either your days or your weeks, depending on your time frame and how the volume of the communications that you're going to be releasing. And you should include information like the name of the content or the name of the piece, the audience to which it's directed, the call to action that you're going to include in the content, and the person responsible for either developing the content or getting it out there. And so do really take this opportunity, use this campaign, this contest, to organize your communications. And of course, if you're working in a team, then an editorial calendar is the best way to have everyone on board with the plan and use the resources in the most effective way. So if you're the type of person that wants to learn more about that, then here's some ideas, both to do with the communication strategy and the overall topics that we've been looking at today. HubSpot is a marketing company, and they have a great guide to building a killer content strategy. You can either copy-paste that into your browser window, or hopefully the link will be available in the presentation once you download it. Like I said, Kiwi LaRue works on the Nonprofit Marketing Guide, and she has a lot of information from her company on the website, but I particularly like the 15 days to more engaging, inspiring emails. And there's a video on how to build an editorial calendar, super easy to use. If you have time, you can explore the tools that are available on the GivingTuesday.org website, and that's the US-based website. And you can look on Network for Good. They have a lot of resources and have done a lot of specific work on how to campaign around Giving Tuesday. And the Knight Foundation also produced a couple of years ago a Giving Day playbook. If you haven't seen it, it's a great resource. And if you have a lot of time on your hands, well, and of course you can go into that Nesta article that I commented about how matched crowdfunding is really beginning to take off and incentivize more social impact giving. So that's the end. I know that was a lot of things to take on board, but if we were to sum up, 3 main things. Plan ahead for your contest. We start with a contest on the 15th of September, there's the 5th of October, and the 29th of November, but you can start right now uploading your project to the HIPGive site with your username and registration to get onto your dashboard. And do make the most of the opportunity for matching funds, but please don't only judge the success of your campaign by the amount of funds you receive. There's a lot more ways that your campaign can be highly successful above and beyond the matching funds. And organize your communication strategy. You're time focused on, you want to make sure that everything comes together on the day of the contest. So if you have clear answers to the questions who, what, how, and when, then it's much more likely that you're going to be able to achieve that. So I want to open the floor up to questions. And maybe Andrea, you can jump in and answer a few while I open the panel and have a look myself.
That sounds good. I'll be here.
Okay, someone has asked a quick question. Will you receive the presentation by mail? Yes, we'll be sending that out as soon as we can after the webinar is finished. But actually, if you look on the right-hand or on the panel that you have for GoToWebinar, and there's a section that says handouts, and in there we've already put the presentation and our calendar of webinars and contests for the rest of the year. Andrea, maybe this is a question for you. Do you have details already for the distribution of matching funds for the September campaign and for Giving Tuesday?
So We're going to announce the details probably in the next few weeks, especially for Hispanic Heritage. And what we're doing right now is we're gathering feedback from the different nonprofits to make sure that what we offer is, you know, the most fair distribution of the matching funds. But it will be similar to what we've done in the past, where we open up a pool of funds every other hour during the specific day, and then every donation that comes in during that time period, it's matched until the pool of funds is depleted. So this is the model we've used so far, and most likely this will be the model that we'll use. But as Anita was saying, we're making sure that we're listening to the nonprofit organizations that are participating, and that if we need to make any changes or integrate any feedback, we will do so in the next contest. But for now, you can expect it to be a very similar model to what we talked about before. So to give you an example, let's say we're offering $20,000 throughout the whole day, then we would divide that in pools, maybe 5 pools throughout the day, and it would start, you know, one at 9 a.m., and let's say that pool is $2,000. As soon as that pool is depleted, the matching funds for that period end, and then you would have to wait till the next period. And so we will make sure to give you the schedule of matching funds so that you can communicate with your donors ahead of time and tell them, you know, make sure to give at 9 a.m., 2, 5, or 9 p.m. and make sure to give at the beginning of the hour. So with that model, what's really important is that donors give as soon as the matching period begins, just to guarantee that you'll get a portion of the matching funds. And that's why when you saw that video that Anita showed, the person talking was really emphasizing that people gave right from the beginning, just to make sure that your funds are matched. Because even if you give within the hour, but the funds were already used up, then the donation is not going to be matched during that specific period.
Thanks. There's another question, Andrea. What are the documents that we would need to have in order to upload to the platform?
So the documents that you're going to need, if you're an organization in the U.S., you need to make sure you have your verification of 501c3 status, a recent financial statement, a list of the board, and a conflict of interest policy if your organization has one. And once you're applying in the HIPGive site, you will see a place where it will ask you to submit those forms. So it'll be a part of the application process. You don't have to do that separately. So once you're in the application process, it'll prompt you to submit the verification forms, and it'll tell you exactly what forms you need to upload. But those would be the 4 main forms that we would need to see just to make sure that you're a valid nonprofit organization. And if you're working with a fiscal sponsor, then you would have to send the fiscal sponsor's letter of agreement. They're sponsoring you for this campaign, and then their verification documents. So their 990 and their document that verifies their 501c3 organization.
Great. And somebody else has asked, in how many contests can we participate? The answer to that is officially as many as you like. There's no restrictions. In practice, I would say that it can be time-consuming and a little bit of hard work if you're going to be participating in successive contests. So really, it would be a good idea to pick and choose the ones that are most linked to the area of work that you work in, or most speak to your audience or your donor base. And like I said, if you want to participate in more than one contest, then we need to have different projects on the platform. We can't have one project participating in 2 contests just because of the way the platform works. What maybe would be a good idea is to use the Hispanic Heritage contest, which is the next one coming up on the 15th of September, as your first contest, and that would give you a really good experience of the platform and how to work around the contest. And if you have a good result in that, then take the learnings and experience towards participating in the Giving Tuesday contest at the end of the year.
Yeah, and I would like to add that although you technically on the HIPGive side would have to launch a new project, if you decided to, let's say, participate on Hispanic Heritage and Giving Tuesday, and you wanted to raise funds for the same cause or the same project, you can do that in a continuation. So we've had groups that launch a project and then later on launch almost like a part 2 of that project or an extension of that project. So it can be towards the same goals, but technically on the site you will have to create another project application. And I do agree with Anita that you should only participate in several contests if you feel really confident that you have a big network and that you have the internal capacity to do that. Because otherwise, you might just exhaust your efforts, your internal efforts by trying to cover too much ground. We have had groups in the past that have participated in several contests, so if you're interested, we could even put you in touch with some of those groups to ask any questions. I'm sure they could take 5 minutes of their time to talk to you.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Andrea. I think that's all of the questions for now. If you think of a question later on, please do get in touch with us. The contact details were at the start of the presentation. You can also contact us through the information on the website. We'll be happy to help. And we hope to see you for the next webinar at the start of August. And we really encourage you to get going on that planning to participate in some of our upcoming contests. Thank you very much and have a great afternoon.